Okay, are we ready? Lynn, would you call us?
Yes, Miss Berry.
Present.
Miss Casper.
Present.
Mr. Hammonds.
Present.
Miss Myers
Present.
and Mr. Vella.
Here.
All right, Bart, let's hear from you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, everybody, for being here. I wanted to share some thoughts with you. The past few weeks have been some of the most challenging times in the history of Epic Charter Schools. We have faced the difficult task of reorganizing our school operations to align with state aid. I recognize the uncertainty that this has created, and I want to acknowledge the pain many have felt as a result of these necessary cost-saving measures. The decision to reduce personnel was not one we took lightly. Together with Epic's executive leadership team, we explored every option to try and avoid such measures. We canceled non-essential travel and events. We suspended contracts with certain vendors and implemented pay cuts. However, despite our best efforts, painful decisions had to be made. Looking ahead, I want to assure you that I am fully committed to thoroughly reviewing our internal processes and taking every possible step to safeguard the long-term stability of Epic. We will do everything in our power to prevent this from happening again. Our top priority at Epic will always be the children in our care. We are dedicated to providing each student with an individualized education that meets their unique needs. This mission is unwavering, and it will continue to guide every decision we make. As we move forward, I have complete faith in the strength and resilience of Epic Charter Schools. I believe in the quality of education we provide and in our ability to adapt and overcome challenging times. We will continue to ensure that our students and staff have an environment where they can thrive and learn. Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, Bart. We are on to public comments.
We do not have any public comments.
All right, then we are on to board committee reports. Let's see, Trevor, do you have anything for us?
We didn't meet this month.
And Sarah?
Our nominating committee, we interviewed all of the applicants received thus far. So we need to have our committee convene and discuss if we're going to move forward.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see, we are on to consideration and possible action to approve recommended applications for Pathways Adult High School Completion Program. I think you all should have seen our Pathways applications. We reviewed them in committee. My understanding is that our recommendation was to approve all applicants. Is there any objection to that? I'd accept a motion to approve.
I'll motion. I'll second.
You call the roll, Ginger?
Yes, please.
Miss Berry.
Yes.
Miss Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds.
Yes.
Miss Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Vella.
Yes.
And we are lucky to get to hear from Dr. Summers via live stream here. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
how are we doing this afternoon?
Okay, thank you.
I would rather be there, but we are doing our part to help with the cause that Bart was just talking about. You can take a lot of pride in how they've handled a lot of complex issues and worked through it, and I appreciate being a part of that process. So I think we should have on the screen a shared slide deck, right?
Yes.
And let's see if I can manipulate And right out of the gate, I want to start with some continuing great news on improving academic results. ELA will show math in a minute. But if you take a look at the little graphic over October, you'll notice that the yellow bar, which is this year, is significantly above everything in its past and significantly above the goal of 7.8, where we ended at 10.3% mastery at the end of October. What's interesting is somebody could, at first we look at the data and say, is it real? Because you recall the state test results were up, but they weren't real. But this is real. And I can tell you that it's the continuing, in my opinion, it's the continuing improvement and engagement of the EPIC curriculum tied to some innovative work that internal teams are arranging so that teachers can do mastery learning more efficiently. Students can work on materials, check their capabilities. If it isn't where it's supposed to be, they continue to work on it until they get to mastery level, and then they move along in the curriculum. And what you're seeing is what we would expect from the research, but put into practice. I got to tell you, this is significant in that think about all the teachers and all the students and all the principals and all the structure that has to modify how they're teaching to have a positive impact. And this is starting to show some real promise. The ultimate judgment day will be the state assessments at the end of the year, but the interim work looks incredibly good. Justin and his team should get a lot of credit for really making things happen, not only in the specialized programs that you've looked at in the past, but the overall curriculum. The math results are basically the same. They're at 9.6%. Target was 7.8. Prior high for October was 5.9. So really good progress. Questions or comments? All right. I wanted to remind the board in the process of what we call the EPIC Vision Deployment System, the Baldrige aligned one. And this isn't about Baldrige as much as it is the work that's happening, that's facing challenges, but also getting success that we just looked at, is not by accident, but it's by a lot of concerted effort in an organized fashion. You'll notice that the key processes on the right, the two that you just saw, the manifestation of early formative results, are the assessment area and the learning environment, and also the student success management processes. And the systems are working correctly to get attention to and make movement on student achievement. You see your strategic objectives, those are your aspirations, along with the measures, superintendent goals, completed work, and then we're monitoring it. And what you're doing right now is monitoring the predictive process measures, which is the formative assessments. I would like to spend just a minute on the continuing effort to talk about Carver governance. We're going to look at the full board's work, which is governance process policies. And we've been talking about them individually, but one of them that we want to highlight today is the question of the annual work calendar. And that annual work calendar, you'll recall, is split up in 10 meetings. You won't have a meeting in December. This would be regular meetings, not any specialized meetings or retreats. And what I've done is, I believe you've got a handout, but I've also got it on the screen here real quick. Let me pull up. Hang on just a second. I doubt if you saw a change in the screen, did you?
We see your screen now, or your image.
Yeah, let's get that out of here as quick as we can. So what you see in front of you or should see in front of you is a January, February, April.
We see it.
Yeah, let me pull it up. So this is your calendar as defined in your policies. I've rearranged them to eliminate the month of March and the month of December and remodified them. I've also put in highlight the ones that you've been doing regular work as on a regular basis. We're still a little slight in the areas of watching for executive limitations, but there aren't too many of those to begin with. But you'll see the bold-faced items. For example, November review financial conditions. You've got that a little later in the agenda. Review ends progress results is what we just did. And the rest of these are less critical ones to double check. This is a set of calendar events that you should be working with on your board agenda. And I would encourage you to think about that one a little bit. When we come back early next year, we'll try to put some thought to whether you want to approve the changes that were made in the calendar that I made to adjust for December and March. This calendar, the reason it's important is it puts in advance an understanding that Bart and his team can respond to without wondering what you want to know. You actually lay it out in advance. And it makes the meeting board expectations much easier for the management team. Questions? If not, that is my presentation for today.
Thank you, Dr. Summers. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and Ginger, I just wanted to say a special thank you to Dr. Summers for volunteering his services to the school district at no cost for the remainder of the school year.
And by the way, it was an easy call because I've grown to really appreciate what I learned from your teams and working with you folks. And it just wouldn't be the same without seeing you each month. So thank you.
Bob, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right. It looks like we are on to consideration and possible action to amend Superintendent Banfield's compensation for FY 24-25 school year. Do we have any discussion there? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would like to request on behalf of the board, I would respectfully request a reduction in my compensation by 1%, which would bring me in alignment with the reduction in compensation that Epic Admin took as a result of what we decided in October.
I will accept a motion to reduce the compensation of Bart Banfield by 1%.
So moved.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds,
Yes.
Ms. Myers. Yes. And Mr. Vella.
Yes.
All right, we are on to leadership and administration, and we get to hear the superintendent report about student enrollment and so forth.
All right, let's jump in here. Jeremy, if you don't mind to throw that presentation on the board. There we go. Superintendent's update, November 14th. Can you all believe Christmas is in about 6 weeks? Be almost halfway through with the school year. It's unbelievable how fast it goes. All right, let's go to the next slide. There's our 5 aspirations, which are very important here today, especially. Let's take a look at the next slide. So student journalism. So a student journalist, Jocelyn McKee, is writing an article for The Comet, Epic Student News Magazine. She reached out to Governor Stitt's office about his stance on cell phones in school, which is a hot topic at the legislature and will be discussed, I believe, in the upcoming session. And he agreed to do an interview with her. So Jocelyn was accompanied by Kinsey Click on the video camera and Amy Martinez Reynolds, the photographer. The first part of the interview aired on the weekly student newscast on Facebook And the rest of the story will be in the next issue of The Comet in January. And I think we all know how important journalism is. And so it's exciting to see the next generation of potential journalists. And we really appreciate Governor Stitt for taking the time to visit with our students. Next slide. Red Ribbon Week is celebrated annually at the end of October and highlights the importance of living a drug-free life. So the OKC Mid-High Learning Center decorated doors with the theme Life is a Movie. Film it drug-free. The winning team got special donuts from the administration as a prize. So you can see some of the creativity of our students there at the Learning Center and appreciate the work that they're doing. Next slide. Comet Academy. So here's an update on Comet. Halloween saw students dress up as their favorite book character. Teachers and principals dressed up and shared their love of reading with students. The election season also brought about ballot boxes. So our regional learning groups held different elections across the state to learn more about the process and the importance of voting in our nation. So love the work that they're doing there at Comet too. And then at Heritage, we had a trunk or treat. So Heritage Academy held a trunk or treat event where parents transformed their cars into enchanting displays. So each trunk was adorned with vibrant decorations, spooky highlights, and themed treats that captivated children and adults alike. So everyone came together to create unforgettable memories, foster connections, and celebrate the fun of Halloween. So some really cool costumes as well. All right. Stonegate Data Drive. So our teachers at Stonegate created a football theme to bridge data from last year to data coming in this year. So they looked at the consistency of our state testing data and the spring benchmark and noted any surprises or things that stood out to them. And they also looked to see if the state testing scores matched their spring benchmark scores. The second half of the dive focused on current year and how they could focus their students' progress into getting into the next testing band. And so our teachers love digging into their data and making plans for their students. So just continuing to monitor the growth of our students from one window to the next. Next slide. Native American Heritage Month. So November is Native American Heritage Month. And in addition to the events held during Native Pride Week last week, Native American programs will be hosting many workshops, including an Indigenous sneaker art workshop on November the 22nd. And you can see some of the work there in their shoes. Next slide. EPIC is partnering with the Oklahoma nonprofit charity called the Hugs Project to create care packages for our military troops who are deployed and in harm's way. So students and EPIC staff are invited to bring items to donate and write letters of support. The collection dates for completed boxes started in October and will continue through December the 15th. The drop-off locations are at 50 Penn, the Tulsa Logan Building, and Lawton Veterans Center. And so really appreciate everybody that volunteered and appreciate the men and women serving in our military forces. EPIC Special Olympics team. This is a cool story. It's been an exciting month for our EPIC Comet Special Olympics team. From practices to competition, our athletes have shown incredible dedication and growth in their bowling skills. So the OKC team recently competed in their area competition, and we are thrilled to announce they received 9 first-place ribbons, 7 second-place ribbons, and 2 third-place ribbons. And so there's some of our folks right there. Yeah, go ahead. Proud of our Special Olympics team. And then this young lady is a special young lady. I actually know her. We've got lots of students at EPIC, but I actually know Chloe. She played basketball with my daughter, Bryn, last year. And Chloe is a standout from EPIC. She's a rising star in the high school basketball ranks and playing for Team Griffin 16U. And anybody that knows basketball knows what Team Griffin is. So that's Blake Griffin's EYBL team, who is they're one of the best AAU groups in all of Oklahoma. And Chloe's known for exceptional skills and tenacious play style. Off the court, she excels academically as well with a 4.0 GPA, showing her dedication and discipline. Her high energy and commitment to basketball are truly inspiring. And so take a look at this young lady and what she can do on the basketball court.
I started playing basketball when I was 3 years old. When I got into third grade, I started competing. And then I started taking basketball even more seriously. I got 34 colleges that reached out, and then 3 offers, 2 D1 and 1 JUCO. Epic helped me with a lot of things. They actually had my back through a lot of things. I didn't really have a great time in middle school. Like, it was very hard because of students, adults, things that I went through in public school. We had heard a lot about Epic Charter Schools, and it made it easier for me to play basketball and get more training because you can work at your own pace. I'm going to go 3 days a week because it make it easier. And then 2 days we can stay at home. I feel like going in person, having hands-on makes the work easier because the teacher is willing to help everybody. When I do not go to school, I get my work done first, and then I go to the gym, get some training in. Epic actually made it easier for me. I kind of travel almost every week. We played in Alabama, Virginia, Chicago, Kentucky. And to make for sure I'm on top of my work, I just be in the back seat with my Wi-Fi, making sure I stay ahead. I got a 4.0 last year. I made a National Junior Honor Society. I also made student council. Epic helps me with a better career in basketball because not only I get a better academic career, I get a better basketball career. It allows me to travel and I get to do the thing that I love.
So super proud of Chloe and all of our basketball players here at Epic Charter Schools. School can be different.
Wow. I'm super proud of Chloe.
She's a great kid.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much, Bart.
Yep.
We're on to Janice.
Hello, we have new microphones. I didn't know. I didn't get a OJT, so thank you. Hello, board. Good afternoon. Today we are reviewing the financial statements in your packet for the month ending September 30th, 2024. And at the end of the month, we had a revenue of 91.7 million and expenses just under 82 million, leaving a fund balance at the end of the month at about $9.8 million. That accounts for the outstanding checks. So our revenue is still greater than budget, so that's great news. We're still a little higher than we would like to be on the expenses year to date, so we still have that fun yellow light. We obviously have been working really hard on that situation and want to talk a little bit about some of that from the financial perspective. So this is at the end of September. So this is before we began making changes in October. There is our revenue comparison to the prior 3 years. So you can see like in September that 25, 24, and 23 are all kind of about the same. And 22, of course, was a completely different time for us as far as what was going on with the revenue. So I'm very, very comfortable with how that came through for September. And then expenses were pretty static for July, August, and September. And you can see it's a little higher than last year. And that is one of the things that we are addressing. So how do we get back to green? That's the question, right? These are the things that I wanted to share with the board, and I've been discussing these at length, of course, with Mr. Banfield and with the Finance Committee. Federal claims reimbursements will increase revenue starting in October. That is normal. It happens every year. So starting on the October financials, you'll see higher revenue than just the state aid because our federal claims reimbursements will start funneling in. We have plans to reduce expenses, as you know, we've talked about, and those will be reflected in the financial reports late in the second quarter. So it'll take some time for the effect of those changes to trickle into the actual financial reports. The midterm adjustment, hoping to have that for you at the January board meeting. We should know in December what our factor rate is going to be. We'll be on winter break when that's released. So when we come back together in January 2025, I can't believe it's coming. We'll be talking about that midterm adjustment, and we're hoping for a favorable midterm that's higher than expected. That would help us go back to green very quickly. And then the cash projections are showing improvement late in the second quarter. So we're on a modified cash accounting basis, which is what's required by the State Department of Education. And the end of the year carryover is a litmus test for the health of the school. And that is equivalent to cash in the bank. money that's available to be spent because it's cash accounting. So I made a little chart for you to kind of give you a visual of what we have been working on and what has transpired. So the orange line, this goes back to July of 2023. So this is 2 years represented. The orange line is our cash balance at the end of each month if nothing had changed. So June 30th, 2025, we would have been looking at a $1.4 million fund balance, which is not enough to operate in the month of July. So the changes that we made resulted in this blue line being our projection. And you can see it's right about the mid 20 range, 24 million. Now, it'll be plus or minus a little bit. There's things that will happen that I don't know. We might not spend as much as we anticipated on something. We might spend more. There are a lot of months left in the year, but based on everything I know today, this is the most educated projection that I can give you. And this is a lot more comfortable and a lot easier to breathe in the months of July and August, because as you know, there's no state aid in July. So your carryover has to operate your school for the entire month of July and the first week and a half of August. And then you get your first state aid payment. And July is one of our most expensive months outside of teacher bonus month, because there's a lot of annual things that happen at the beginning of the year. Insurance renewals, purchasing large amounts of curriculum for the new school year. There are all sorts of things. So, I mean, remember back to that slide that July month is up every year. It's higher than the other months. So we need to be well prepared to that carryover to be enough for our operations to be seamless so that school starts in August of next year with no hiccups from the financial side. And I think that we are now in a better position to do that based on all of the revisions and changes that we have implemented. And that is my report. I'm happy to answer any questions or if there are any comments from the board, either now or privately later.
Can you explain the midterm adjustment to us?
Sure, absolutely. So schools in Oklahoma, the state aid is determined by the weighted average daily membership of the first quarter of school. So that all schools in the state spend that first quarter calculating their attendance every day and turning that in. And that gets you your average daily membership. Then the State Department takes that number for every school in Oklahoma, figures it all out for the whole state, figures out their whole budget for Common Ed, and then figures out how much is going to be divvied out per student. Schools go up, schools go down. We've seen both. In January, we have a true up. So your initial funding from the State Department is based on the end count of the prior year. If your attendance in the first quarter is higher, then your midterm adjustment would go up, and they will get you at the right rate so that that allocation is your allocation for the whole year. If your number goes down, then they would withhold state aid until you are at the right percentage allocation. So you get 9% a month, August, September, October, November, December. So in January, you're supposed to be at the 6th payment, so 54% of your allocation. So when the allocation changes, they have to true up the algebra, as it were. And some years, like during the COVID years, Epic saw a very, very large midterm adjustment because their enrollment in the fall of 2020 was incredibly higher than their enrollment at the end of 1920. So they had a very large adjustment. We've had seasons where our enrollment went down and we didn't receive state aid in July or February or part of March because we were pre-funded on a number that was higher. So all schools in Oklahoma have the midterm adjustment, and all it's meant to do is to true up to what the true allocation is for each school based on the data collected in the first quarter of the school year. So you're finding out in January what your budget is starting back in July, which is difficult.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, no, it helps. That's kind of what I thought it was, the previous discussions. I guess I was hoping that it might mean that we get extra funding for all the extra students that we get past the first quarter. But
I think we will get extra funding. It won't be because of students past it would be because of the first quarter. Our weights are up. So we've seen an increase there. What we don't know is the state factor rate, We don't know how much the state is going to be able to allocate per student for the statewide amount. So once we know that, and that should be in December while we're on break, we'll have a better knowledge of what it's going to be. We budgeted for it to be flat. So if it goes up, that's great news for us. At this point, I don't think it's going to go down, but I don't know how they, if the total overall student count in the state of Oklahoma were to go way, 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 way up, that would lessen the piece of the pie for each student. And so you could see a decrease in factor rate. If the opposite happens, you could see an increase in factor rate. So most indications that I've seen, read, and heard are that it's going to go up. We have students pulling out of public and going to private. That makes the piece of the pie bigger. Their budget was fairly flat, but there's a little wiggle room there. So we'll see. But that's the game, is the wait and see game for the midterm adjustment.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's not Epic specific. That's
Right.
all schools in Oklahoma have the same process. All right.
Anyone
Thank you
else?
for your time.
All right, thank you, Janice. I will. Let's see, do we need to move to accept the financial report?
I would move to accept the financial report as presented.
Second,
Ms. Casper, you seconded? is that right?
yes.
Ms. Berry. Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds.
Yes.
Ms. Myers
Yes.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.
All right, does that cover C? Do we feel good about that, Brandon?
Yes.
And then the consent agenda, if there's anything to pull out, anyone? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
yes.
Mr. Hammonds.
Yes.
Ms. Myers
Yeah.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.
All right, we need to go into executive session. I believe we need a motion to go into session, is that correct? So I'd accept a motion to move into executive session. Motion.
Second.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds.
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Bella.
Yes.
All right, we will proceed.
It'll be in the executive conference room on the other side of the building. And if I could have ELT present in case there may be any questions that we may have and Mike as well.
See y'all over there.
Let's go over there.
In session?
Second.
Ms. Berry, Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds.
Yes.
Ms. Myers
Yes.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.
And we have an item that Brandon needs to help
So-
us with.
Yeah, on the executive session compliance announcement. Only the board members who were present were in executive session along with Bart Banfield, Brandon Webb, Roger Kimball, Michael Flory, and Justin Hunt. Only the items listed on the agenda were discussed and no votes were taken. Any discussion or action regarding the executive session? Okay, none. I do want to go back and clarify real quickly. Item 3C. It seemed like we may have conflated B and C. So if you would like to look at C, and this is just accepting the financial statements, it's not having any action being done, but I want to make sure it's done correctly. So if you would like to discuss that and vote to accept the financial statements.
I would move that we accept the financial statements as presented. Second.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds,
Yes.
Ms. Myers.
Yes.
And Mr. Bella.
Yes.
So we're on 6A.
I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Ms. Berry, Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.